At the moment now I'm sleeping on the floor for 48 hours. Do you want to sleep on the floor for 48 hours?
One word of advice: avoid buying such flight tickets.
After what we thought was going to be a 24-hour journey actually ended up being a 97-hour journey with a 30-hour layover, no hotel room, no food, and no sleep.
This is an absolute nightmare.
So if we knew that this was going to be such a travel disaster, we probably wouldn't have bought these tickets in the first place. Before you go ahead and make the same mistake that we did, we thought that we would share with you our experiences so that you are aware of the consequences that come with buying such tickets and you don't end up in the same situation as we did.
There's just no organization here whatsoever.
Like yourself and many others, we're on a budget. So when trying to book flights, we're always looking for the cheapest option. And when doing so, there's a certain flight option that always pops up: separate tickets booked together. This ticket is generally the cheapest by far, so we booked it. As we were currently in Istanbul, Turkey, our first flight was from there all the way to New Delhi, India, where we would have an 18-hour layover flight. But we were okay with that because we were going to book a hotel in the airport where we can shower and get some rest.
As we arrived at Istanbul airport, we encountered the same problem that we encountered when trying to leave Thailand.
So this brings us to the first issue of buying such flights, which is luggage. These tickets only include hand luggage. Now you can pay extra for checked-in luggage, but the problem with that is during your layover, you're going to have to pass immigration to go and fetch your luggage and go and check in for your next flight again. That means to pass immigration, you're going to need a visa. As remember, these tickets are separate tickets when booked, so they do not classify as a transit ticket and nobody will move your bag for you from one flight to the other. Problem.
So we only travel with hand luggage and no checked-in luggage, which means when we get to our transit, we don't need to pass immigration and the price is a lot cheaper. So, travel hack.
The ticket we bought included 3 flights. The first one with Indigo and the other 2 with Vietjet.
So after passing immigration and exiting Turkey, we finally boarded our flight to go to our new country.
So it has been 2.5 hours on this flight and they've just opened up one of the jets. So I think we might have a jet problem, which is not very... What is the word for it?
I don't want to fly, that's what I want to get off of here.
Yeah, I think there might be a possibility that we're not flying tonight.
So just an important announcement. We are right now working on the maintenance part, which is gonna take expected right now at least 3 to 4 hours and may take further more also. So meanwhile we are taking all the customers in coach to the terminal area. You can have refreshment and food there, and then we will further decide how gonna it work. Thank you so much.
So we're getting off the plane. There's our bus.
Wow, this is a first.
You can see the engine is open right there. So to be honest, I think it's a blessing that we're getting off, because if it's an engine problem, yeah, I'm just happy to get off.
We then entered the airport and we got some food and we got some snacks and we waited to hear what the next step would be. Now, I might not show it to you, but underneath the surface, I'm stressing about climbing back on this flight, especially when I can see that it's got something to do with the engine. There's many times in our travel where I feel that my anxiety stops me from enjoying a moment to its fullest. And sometimes I'm able to control these anxieties, but other times I let the anxiety just take over me. And that is why I'd like to thank today's sponsor of this video, BetterHelp. If you're feeling like me, or perhaps you're feeling depressed, stressed, or anxious, then BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. There's a wide range of expertise in BetterHelp's 20,000 plus therapist network that offer help that might not be available in your area. Plus, what is great is that you can speak to your therapist in a secure online environment at your convenience. All you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and from there you'll be matched with a licensed therapist in under 48 hours. You can then schedule secure video and phone sessions, plus exchange unlimited messages, and everything that you do share is completely confidential. If you feel, for example, that your therapist isn't the best fit for you, then you can change your therapist at any time with no additional charge. Join over 3 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the BetterHelp therapist. You can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Buddymoon. That is betterhelp.com/Buddymoon, and we'll leave that link in the description below.
So this guy over here was from Indigo Airlines and was the manager. He was the person that was in control of everything that was happening. But every single time I approached him in order to find out what was going on, I just got continuously ignored.
Sorry, I just want to understand what's Sorry, I just want to understand what's going on. I just want to understand.
Automatically system.
I just want to understand what's busy happening now at the moment.
From this side, I'll explain you.
After waiting for 10 minutes, he still did not approach me, so I decided to go up to him again and ask him what is happening.
At this stage, I was waiting with our bags and waiting for Danny to come and tell me what was the next step.
I got bad news and I got good news. The bad news is we're only flying in 15 hours time. 15 hours time. Okay? Good news is we have a multiple entry visa for Turkey. So it means we can go back out into Turkey, which means they will be giving us a hotel for this 15 hours.
That's not so bad. Here I was thinking we're going to be sleeping in the airport.
But we still have a problem.
What's that?
Now, as our flight was going to be in 15 hours time and our flight was going to be 6 hours long, it means we were only going to be in New Delhi, India in 21 hours time, which was going to be 11 o'clock at night. Now, because our next flight with Vietjet was only at midnight, it means that our layover would have only been 1 hour.
So this delay would take away our entire 18-hour layover that we would have had in New Delhi, India, and we were alright with that because we had time on our hands. However, 1 hour to exit this flight, get a new boarding pass, board the next flight was a little bit tight, so there is a possibility that we could miss our connecting flight.
Now, remember the tickets we bought? Yeah, these ones? This means that because they're completely separate tickets, this 1 hour transit period is not classified as a transit. So therefore, if you miss the next flight, it is not covered by travel insurance.
We then went to our help desk and then they photocopied our passports and organized us a hotel for the evening. But this whole process took us 3 hours.
When I woke up this morning and thought we were getting on a flight, I did not expect this.
After that, we climbed on a bus at 4 o'clock in the morning where we headed to our hotel. But this hotel was so far away. It was practically on the outskirts of Istanbul.
The sun is up and we've only arrived at our hotel now. It's 6 o'clock.
I honestly don't actually understand the point of this hotel stay because we're literally going to have like 2 hours sleep. We have to have breakfast, shower, sleep, all of that by 10 o'clock. And what's the time now? Almost 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't understand the point of this at all. I think we would have gotten so much more sleep by actually sleeping on the airport floor. The next morning we woke up so late due to how tired we were and we completely missed breakfast. But we hopped on the bus and we began our 2 hour drive back to the airport and we slept. Well, at least I did. I'm so tired.
As we made friends with the people that were on the same flight as us, the one person informed us that there was actually a 2 hour time zone difference. Therefore, that 1 hour that we thought was going to be a transit meant that we were actually going to be missing our next flight by 1 hour because of these 2 hours. So things just started to get worse. Now, just to recap quickly, remember the flight tickets we bought? Yes, these ones. That means that the transit periods between flights are not classified as a transit period. It's classified as a completely separate flight. So that means if we miss the next flight, it kind of acts as if you missed your flight or you never rocked up to your flight. So there is no refund. You can't even change that ticket. You've literally lost it completely.
But once we got to the airport, things started to go our way. Remember this guy? Yes, he contacted the manager of Vietjet and she said that she would help us out. But at this point we were starving as the last time we ate was at 1 a.m. So we got
Burger King. Yes. 1060?
Yes, enjoy meal, goodbye.
Thank you so much.
58, enjoy meal.
I'll have us breakfast, baby.
Thank you, sweetie.
Burger King. I'm so happy right now.
And we finally made it through boarding pass.
Let's hope we can actually fly this time.
Yeah, round 2.
I've never been so happy to board a flight before in my life.
Welcome on board.
Thank you. Here we are.
So I think we are on the same flight, which means that technical error is still sitting at the back of my head.
Don't jinx it. We need to leave. finally made it to New Delhi, India.
Finally!
And we met up with a guy from Indigo Airline who was gonna help us with the Vietjet flights.
But after speaking to him, he said that because it was only 2 o'clock in the morning, that Vietjet people were only going to be arriving at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that means we still had to wait another 13 hours before we can actually speak to Vietjet so that they could give us a boarding pass for our next flight.
So after everything that we've been through, we had to wait in this tiny little transit area with no food, no access to a hotel, and 2 hours of sleep for the next 13 hours.
So just to give you an idea of where we're chilling, these are our seats. This is what the transiting area looks like. It's so small. There's sleep place down there that we're eyeing out.
Now the hotel and the restaurants were on the other side of the transfer desk and security, and we were strictly told that we can only get that side if we have a boarding pass, which we were only getting in 13 hours time from Vietjet.
Thank you very much. Well, this looks good. Smells good as well. Looks like a curry with some chickpeas inside. I gather there's rice underneath all of that. And we got in some fruit juice and a water.
Alright, so quick update. It's been 12 and a half hours since we've arrived. So we've literally been chilling here for 12 and a half hours. There's a new guy at the desk now, so now we have to re-explain our whole entire situation and hopefully be on the next flight to our next destination. Just crossing thumbs that this all goes right.
So after waiting so long, it was finally 3 p.m. in hopes that Vietjet would be there, but we were told that they're only coming in at 6 p.m.
Can you believe that? So we waited another 3 hours for Vietjet to eventually arrive, and when speaking to them, they told us that we would not be able to climb onto the next flight, that they would only be able to give us the exact same flight route that we had because that's the section that they fly, and that flight only flies every 2 days. Now, because our flight was at 11:30 at night, that means we had to wait till the next day for 11:30 at night to climb onto our next flight. And because it's 6 o'clock, it means that's like 28 hours time that we still need to be waiting in this small little section.
We actually couldn't believe what was going on. And yeah, you're probably thinking, why didn't we just book another ticket? Well, remember that budget. So we decided we'd just sit tight and try and keep our heads high and wait and hope that this ends soon.
So we began to wait again.
So we've now been at the airport for 21 hours and they have told us that they cannot print us a boarding pass yet. They can only print it for us 4 hours before the flight.
No, but they have to give me a boarding pass at least 24 hours before so that I can at least go there and have a place to stay. Because at the moment now I'm sleeping on the floor for 48 hours. Do you want to sleep on the floor for 48 hours? Exactly. So then how can you expect the customers to sleep on the floor for 48 hours?
So the guy that I'm talking to right now is the third guy on the job that hasn't been told who we are or what our scenario is. So the level of service that we are receiving is absolutely appalling.
This is an absolute nightmare.
So at this point we were getting very fed up, and I thought it would be no threat to them to actually allow us through the transit, through the security desk, so we can actually just book our hotel, sleep in it because our flight is literally only in like 30 hours time, have a good shower and then come back the next day and get our boarding passes.
Generally, we don't have any issues waiting in areas like this as we have done so before, but for 24 hours and getting very little sleep because of constant people passing and all the noise, and also not knowing when our next meal would be and relying on people that we cannot actually be dependent on got quite frustrating.
We were then forced to wait for another 24 hours until we were approached at 2 o'clock in the morning by our third man on the job, telling us that Vietjet has taken our tickets away and we'll no longer be getting one.
This entire time we were led to believe that we were just waiting for our boarding passes to be printed, but in actual fact we'd been waiting for nothing.
The reason Vietjet has taken our tickets away is because of our terms and conditions. Now, remember the ticket we bought? Because it was not a transit and it was actually a completely separate flight, it is calculated that we missed the flight completely, so it's forfeited and we'll get no refund. Makes sense, right? So I guess we living the real repercussions of the terms and conditions of buying such tickets.
So you're probably wondering why we didn't get that $60 flight insurance, and that is because in a situation like this, the flight insurance would only give us $100 maximum back, which means we would have had $40 to buy a new flight, And we all know that it doesn't cost $40 to buy a new flight.
As we were not the only people in this scenario from the same flight, we were left with no choice but to argue this after waiting for 24 hours and receive no flight. At this point, we were basically fed up and threw a scene. Now, this is probably not the right way to handle a scenario, but we thought this was the only way to do it to ensure that some level of service was achieved. By doing this, Indigo Air agreed to give us a flight towards Bangkok, Thailand, as their airline flew this route, and it was the closest towards our final destination. Although this was not Indigo Airlines' fault of why we were in this situation, they did sort us out regardless of our ticket's terms and conditions. And for that, we can be very grateful, but the manner it was all done was just appalling.
After what felt like weeks, we finally hopped on our flight to Bangkok, Thailand at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we prayed that there would be no more issues. After we arrived in Bangkok, Thailand, we hopped on a bus that took us from the one international airport to the other, as that is where our flight was leaving from. But instead of doing a layover, we decided to stay in Bangkok for one night to catch up on some rest.
Honestly, this is the best part of this trip so far.
The next morning we grabbed a taxi to head to the airport, but not before we grabbed a 7-Eleven ham and cheese toastie. We then boarded our flight to our final destination. And we finally made it to Bali.
After a very long trip, but we are so excited to be here and we cannot wait to explore the island.
So the moral of the story is do not buy these tickets if you are not willing to accept the terms and conditions that they come with. Now, I must also say that the chances are slim that something like this actually happens, but if it happens once out of every 5 times, because these tickets are so cheap, it's still going to be cheaper to correct the mistakes that are involved in this process instead of actually buying a transit ticket. Luckily with us, we are nomads, therefore we have time on our hands. But if you were somebody that was going to a holiday and only had a holiday for a week, or going back to work from a holiday, having such a 5-day delay could actually pose a massive problem.
So we made this video in hopes that you would learn something from it, as we believe that many people have purchased tickets like this and been in not so fun scenarios. So we're just putting it out there in hopes that it doesn't happen to you.
So we really hope that you enjoyed this video and actually got something out of it. If you did, please give us a like, give us a super thanks if you can, as that will really help us out, and don't forget to subscribe.
And comment down below what your travel nightmares have been, as we'd love to hear your stories.